The most common issue that we run across in safer spaces in the partner dance world is when a person in a leadership position is acting inappropriately. But I basically said you are cowards. Men like you are the reason that men like him continue to get away with this. And I hope you realize what you're doing, that you need to do better. So not only is zero tolerance right from a moral standpoint, it's also right from a legal standpoint, right? If you're worried about anything as organizer, like worry about one of your attendees coming after you because you let a dangerous individual into your event.
Today, I'd like to welcome Jason Potell. Jason is a dancer, teacher, and organizer based in Los Angeles. Jason has been an active member of the dance scene for about 22 years and a member of the Safer Spaces scene for about the same time. He has been a member of the Safer Dance Spaces scene for about 10 years now. The conversations that we need to have to foster and grow safer dance scenes for all of us require all of us to have some brave conversations and find ways to hold ourselves and others to account. So, Jason, thank you for coming and having one of those conversations with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Jason, what first got you into dancing?
Yeah, so I grew up around dance. My mother was a disco instructor in the 70s. My grandmother was a salsa dancer. So there was kind of dance around when I was growing up in the 80s. I was also a huge Michael Jackson fan growing up. So there are like photos of me at like 3 years old trying to, do some beat it or smooth criminal stuff. Um, but I didn't really get into dance seriously until college. I went to a school called Williams College, which is on the East Coast of the country. And it's funny, there was a New York Times article that came out about Williams College the year that I was there. And the opening line of the article was something to the effect of, one of the strangest things about Williams College is you'll quickly realize that almost every student here knows how to swing dance. And it was funny because the same year that I entered, there was a student who was a former swing dance champion who had just enrolled at Williams, and he offered free swing dancing classes for all the students. So it just was a thing that a huge percentage of the student body started taking swing dancing lessons. Um,
Love it.
and it wound up being really fun. And we also had I don't know if you've heard of contra dancing, but there was a huge contra dance scene in the part of Massachusetts that I was in. So you could
Mm.
go like contra dancing one night, you could go swing dancing another night. There was also a retired Argentine tango couple that lived in the tiny little town, so they would teach tango classes. So there just randomly happened to be a lot of social dancing opportunities at college. So yeah, that's when I got into it.
Amazing. So, what have been your reactions to learning about the reports of sexual abuse that have been shared recently?
Like Bobby, I'm a member of the Safer Dance Spaces organization, and you chatted with some of the group members about a week ago because it felt like something different was in the water this time. The only kind of comparable event that this started to remind me of was the Me Too movement, but that felt different because at the time that was kind of across all walks of life, not specific to the dance world,
Mm.
whereas what's happening now is very specific to the partner dance world. Um, and not just the partner dance world, but also to very high profile individuals in the social dance world. I mean, even individuals who you could draw a straight line from like their start to the explosion of certain dance scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that people like that are being called into question now just makes this feel like something is very different this time, and why I think it's really important to be having these conversations. Because as a dance organizer, one of the most common problems you'll run into with trying to do any sort of safe space work is what happens when someone in a leadership position is potentially an issue.
Yeah.
Um, that can often just shut down the conversation completely because people don't want to come out. Um, but it seems like what's different this time is that people are calling out very high profile individuals. And if that's the case, then there's something different that's going on this time that we should be talking about.
So, in terms of it feeling different, do you think it feels like a positive different? Are we going to see real change?
I mean, would I want to bet my life on it? No. um, I've been, for better or worse, in the safer spaces universe for 22-ish years now.
Mm.
So progress for anything like this is a lot of up and down. You feel like you're taking, 5 steps forward, and then something happens, you have to take 4 steps back.
Yeah.
Um, so do I think everything's going to be sunshine and roses in a year? No. But I do take a lot of heart in that it feels different this time.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that we're having these conversations about such high profile individuals, and not only that, but festivals have started to take action and started to retract invitations and make public that they're no longer working with these individuals.
Mm.
Um, this is probably the highest profile cycle that I've seen where this happened. And it really feels like people are on notice, and not calling out any specific names, but if you've been following this at all, there are some individuals who have put out posts in response to these things, and they've been getting blasted for their responses, which didn't happen before. And so
Mm.
it just feels different. Like the expectation this time is much higher. That just like saying sorry is not good enough this time. Where I
Yeah.
feel like that was enough in the past. We'll do better, and people would, applaud and say, great job, okay. But this time it feels like we're not looking for an apology. We're looking for you to like take responsibility and own up
Yes.
to it, um, and state, how are you personally going to make this different, and not give we are fully committed to making a safer space. That answer is not good enough anymore. Um,
No.
so I do take heart that it does feel different this time. And even conversations like the one you and I are having right now feels different, because it's like, okay, we're trying to figure out what is happening in this moment that's
Yeah.
different, and hopefully we can keep these conversations going forward, which is, why I think, an organization like, SDS is so important right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that based on what you're saying, that you do feel like there will be some real change. And real change may not be that it all becomes sunshine, rainbows, and chocolate cake, but there will be progress. I think progress is real change. Whatever
Yes.
amount that comes in, progress is progress. It's good.
Yes, for sure. I definitely think there will be positive change from this.
Yeah.
Um, it's just how much will happen.
Yeah.
Um, and I think anyone who's spent kind of as much time as I have in the safer spaces world, we've got our hopes up many times in the past that
Mm.
things would be, qualitatively different. So I'm, I guess, cautiously optimistic, we'll say.
Yeah.
Hopeful, and I'm really hoping that people, especially organizers, come through and like, look at the state of things right now and make some changes,
Mm.
and build
Yeah.
on this. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. And you say you've been in the safer dance scene within the dancing scene for over 20 years now. Whereabouts did you start within the safer dance conversations?
Yeah, so I guess I would say the safer spaces scene is what I've been in for that long. The safer dance particular has been a little more recent, but
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I got involved in the safer spaces movement in college for some personal things that I went through at that time. And so that's also when I started dancing, and uh, kind of over the years of just having that experience in college, when I got out into the quote unquote real world, um, and came across some things that would happen, I had the language and the familiarity, and I think the empathy to be involved and have those conversations.
Yeah.
And so it happened over the years that, if you were my friend, eventually you'd figure out that I could talk about these things in an empathetic and, thoughtful way. And so I got pulled into more and more conversations about these things. And then as I got deeper into my dance life, I went from a student to a teacher to an organizer. Eventually, those two worlds collide, and you start having to have safer spaces conversations about the dance world.
Yeah.
And it just kind of evolved from there, to, working with some local dance organizers to my scene at the time to talk about these kind of issues, to speaking with people on a broader, national, international level. And then I guess most recently for me was getting involved in the SDS movement a couple of years ago, because that crew's really taken a kind of a leadership role in facilitating these conversations.
Yeah. So how does SDS help you facilitate those conversations?
So I think I mean there's a lot of benefits. So if you're in the safer spaces world and you're caring about it and trying to do something about it, you're going to be having some very hard conversations. Not just like hard as in like hard topics, but like emotionally draining. Like you're going to be
Mm.
talking to people who are going to be sharing things with you that might be one of the worst moments of their life. Um, and we're all human, and it can be very difficult, like, emotionally, physically, to have a lot of these conversations.
Yeah.
And so just having a community that knows what that's like and like knows what you're going through as an organizer, to try to make these things better, it's just really helpful just to say
Yeah.
like this person gets what I'm trying to do. Um,
Yeah, you can lean
because
on each other.
yeah. So just having that community where space to talk about these things in general is fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, I think for folks who haven't been involved in this world for a while, you also might just not have the language, like the words to talk about these kinds of things,
Yeah.
um, and not even realizing the power that words you might not even be thinking about,
Hmm.
could have.
Yeah.
Um, like we could have a whole conversation on the word follow, right, in the context of the
Yes.
dance scene,
Yeah.
and a younger dance teacher might say something like, "Okay, leads, grab a follow" in dance class, and not realize the weight and the assumptions that are behind that statement.
Yeah.
Um, and so just being able to have people who can like help you learn how to have these conversations and realize what certain words you're using might or might not be meaning or caring behind them is really
Hmm.
important. um, I think
Yeah.
SDS is also great about providing uh, like resources and tools and like trainings and like, okay,
Yeah.
so great, I'm a new organizer, how do I actually do these kind of things? Well, here's a training you can take that will kind of
Yeah.
walk you through like, okay, this is how you run an event in a mindful way. This is how you train your volunteers and your staff to be
Mm.
able to see these kinds of ways. This is how you do like a reporting process.
Yeah.
If you have an issue, and the legal side gets a little more complicated because not only is every country different, but if you're like in the US, every state is different, every city is different. So SDS isn't going to be able to like advise you on the specifics of any legal issue you may be encountering, but it can point you to like, hey, this person in your scene, right, dealt with this last
Yeah.
year. There'd be a great resource for you to talk to. It's like, oh, thank God someone else in like my country or my state went through this, and they can
Yeah.
probably help you, maybe even point you to, someone with actual legal knowledge that you could talk to. Yeah, it's mostly a connection thing
Yeah.
right now.
Well,
I
we're
think
humans, and I think connections are one of our most important assets and our most beautiful
absolutely.
assets that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Jason, you've been weaving in and out of different dance scenes over the past many, many years. So what do you do to protect the dancers that you work with?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So on a kind of a base level, like there's a lot of small things that people can do, right?
Hmm.
Things like whenever I host events, like when we talk about parking, right? We make it clear that like, hey, if you feel, I live in LA, right? Parking is always a thing in LA. So if you feel safe walking in LA at night, please don't park close to the venue, right?
Ah,
Leave those spaces, right, open and free for the people who might be coming by themselves, feel more vulnerable. It's something as small as that.
yeah.
And in general, people who come to events have been pretty good about that. Or like always offering someone to walk to your car. Like if you need someone to walk you to your car, just let us know at the volunteer desk. We'll find someone to walk you to your car.
Hmm.
Um, Things like that. So just kind of on the base safety things. I have the SDS code of conduct present at all my events. People are required to agree to it. They can, I mean, it's posted at the volunteer desk. So you can read through it if you have any questions about kind of, how we think about things. I always give the little, this is a safe space speech at the start of all the events. And
Yeah.
say, like, if you at any point you feel comfortable, you feel uncomfortable, please come talk to me or one of the volunteers. I make it very clear that at this point, I've probably brought issues
Hmm.
against 15 to 20 people in my life, so very well versed in
Okay.
handling these things.
Yep.
Will not be shy about kicking someone out. Um, I go through our zero tolerance policy, which very much zero tolerance means zero tolerance. Like, there's so many of these things you've probably seen throughout the years where someone will get reported 11 times. That's the worst that I'd heard before
Oh.
any action was taken about them. And
Mm.
so I operate with a zero tolerance policy. And what that means is that if someone tells me that someone's made them uncomfortable, that person is removed.
Okay.
We assume truth.
Okay.
And I recognize that, unfortunately, yes, there can be a possibility of a misunderstanding,
Hmm.
or someone is being vengeful and trying to use the safe space movements to take vengeance on someone. Recognize that those are possibilities. And as an organizer, I will always follow up on whatever report we
Okay.
get.
So if
Um,
you remove somebody from an event because of reports of inappropriate behavior, you then have a follow-up system where you will carry out
yes,
some sort of investigation or have some
yes,
conversations?
yes.
Okay.
We have a process. We'll go through. Uh, the person who kind of reported things, we'll try to get as much information from them as they're willing to share. We'll talk to the person, who's accused of something, and we'll try to figure out, to the best of our ability, what happened and what would be um, the appropriate next steps.
Okay.
Uh, and I have had, unfortunately, in the past, had people who it turned out did nothing,
Hmm.
and it was a vengeance thing that someone was trying to do to them. And
Oh,
what I said to the person who was accused, I was like, I'm like, one, very sorry this happened to you, but I hope that you understand that in the history of safe spaces, we've erred way too far on the side of not believing reports.
yeah.
And if it happens that, on the path to, a fully safe dancing, whatever that looks like, a couple people get falsely accused and have to be escorted from a dance event, I'm sorry, but like, that's a price I, as an organizer, am willing to pay. Because
Hmm.
the other option is that we err on the side of leaving dangerous individuals in to potentially harm other dancers.
Yeah.
So our choice is, we're either going to, because we're not perfect, we're not going to be able to get every single thing right on the nose. There's always going to be a gray area. So what
Yeah.
zero tolerance to me means is we put the gray area firmly on the other side. It's like,
Hmm.
if we're gonna mess up, and we will mess up because we're human, when
Yeah.
we mess up, we will always err on the side of safety. And apologies to the people who are negatively affected by that from a falsely accused standpoint.
Yeah.
But
And you can take that accountability that
yeah,
I'm sorry we got it wrong.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And to that person, there's some specific I'm thinking of, like, I apologize and said, yeah, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
That person was targeting you maliciously, but like, I hope, and they did. They were very understanding. um,
Oh,
that I mean, they weren't happy, but like, they were like, yeah, I get it.
yeah.
That, like, in this world, we have to make, yeah, you have to make calls, and
Indeed.
I just think it's so much better to err on the side of safety at this point, just because we have seen have not proved that we can handle,
Yeah.
right, the gray area well enough.
Indeed. I mean, we take a raincoat or an umbrella with us to err on the side of caution in case it rains. We will get
Right.
to the airport an extra hour early to err on the side of caution in case there's a long queue. Those are
Yeah.
very minimal compared to leaving dangerous people on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Surely we can err on the side of safety.
Yeah. And it's funny because so that zero tolerance policy that I kind of adapted from SDSs and kind of made my own, really came out of a conversation with a lawyer for
Hmm.
this specific incident. Um, and what the lawyer said to me was really fascinating. Because we often worry as organizers in particular, what about, if we get sued for defamation, right? We
Mm,
ban someone and then they tell us, oh, you've ruined my reputation. Now no one will interact with me. Um,
yeah.
what our lawyer said at the time, and this is definitely not legal advice, this was our conversation, but the advice that
Sure.
he gave us was that one, if you always speak in truths, you have nothing to worry about. And so that's why I'm always very careful when I talk about, we're not going to talk about any specifics here, but you're right, saying that, person A assaulted person B versus person B told me that person A assaulted them, right?
Mm.
The second statement, I'm completely free to say that
Yeah.
because that's a truth,
Yeah.
right? They did tell me this. Whether or not that's a lie or not, I don't know, but they did tell me that. Um, so he was like, you need to like protect yourself from these defamation worries just by
Yes.
how you talk about these things. And then two, you should be much more concerned from a legal standpoint on what if you knowingly allow a dangerous person to into or to remain in one of your events. Like you're much more likely to be liable for that. Like
Hmm.
if it comes out that, hey, person A was reported as a potentially dangerous individual, and then Jason let person A into the event, and then person A assaulted somebody, I could be liable for that.
Yeah.
So not only is zero tolerance right from a moral standpoint, it's also right from a legal standpoint, right? If you're worried
Yeah.
about anything as organizer, like worry about one of your attendees coming after you because you let a dangerous individual into your event.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
would that count as if there has been, let's say, reports on social media, or and you have that person in your event? Would that count as you have access to that information? You have allowed person A in despite knowing that?
I
Or would they
think
have to...
that would get beyond my legal knowledge because
Okay,
I think
okay,
that's a legal question,
okay.
right? But for
So to put it back into the realm then of what you did discuss with your friend,
mhm,
if you have been told before, even if it's by a third party, by person C, hey, I heard person A did this,
mhm.
would that count as you now have enough information to err on the side of caution and not let person A into your event?
Probably
Okay.
that hasn't happened. Um, and I would going back, I guess this kind of ties back into how do you keep people safe question,
Mm,
because I think it's pretty well known at this point that I and my events take this stuff extremely seriously.
yeah.
So people who get accused of things tend not to show up at my events um, because they know that they'll be dealing with an environment where they are not welcome, and that
Yes.
um, so actually, I haven't. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever had it happen where like someone was accused of something on social media and then tried to come to one of my events. I don't think we've
Okay.
ever had that happen. Not to my knowledge, right? It's
That's so
entirely
lovely to
possible.
hear.
It's entirely possible that there
Yeah.
was something going on that I didn't know about,
Hmm.
and they came and I just didn't wasn't in that
Yeah.
conversation. So that
It
thankfully
happens a lot.
hasn't happened. If it did and I was aware, yeah, I'd probably stop them at the door.
Yeah.
Um, if I wasn't aware, then it would be like anything else. Someone at the event would have to come tell me.
Yeah.
Um,
But imagine that. Imagine if every organizer took this stuff, and by this stuff we mean safety of your attendees. If
mhm,
everyone took safety of attendees seriously,
mhm.
perpetrators, people who chance their luck, abusers, it's all the same thing.
Yeah,
They wouldn't be at those in those spaces
right.
because these people know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Even if they just call it chancing their luck or, oh, I just like flirting. If
yeah,
you've stopped showing up at Jason's events, then you know that it's more than that. It's
yeah,
unwanted behavior.
yeah. And I guess that also kind of ties into kind of how do you keep people safe? Because it's not just the dance scene. Like we're getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but I had a very similar issue come up recently in another
Mm.
community that I'm in, non-dance community.
Hmm.
It's a board game community. So one of my other big hobbies is I play a lot of board games, and I really enjoy hosting like board game related events.
Mm.
Um, so as we were talking about, the most common issue that we run across in safer spaces in the partner dance world is when a person in a leadership position is acting inappropriately and often abusing their position of power to take advantage of vulnerable people in their community.
Hmm.
I was a member of a board game group where that pattern started. And I saw it coming with a
Yeah.
person in a leadership position in the community and had to do one of those, like, you know, kind of an existential question, right? It was like,
Hmm.
who am I as a person, right? And if I do this kind of work in the dance space, should I not also be doing it in other spaces that I'm involved in?
Mm.
And so this is my first time encountering it in the board game world. And so I had to like have a really serious think about this. And eventually I did go through the process of what I would do in a dance world.
Yeah.
And it was chaos. It kind of blew up that whole board game group because they'd never had someone
Wow.
who called out one of the male leaders of the group.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I was like, I'm really sorry, guys, but like I can't not talk about this.
No.
Um, and so I called out the guy in front of the groups. I tried to like do what I do in my dance world, which is like put together group people to like have the come to Jesus conversation with him. That was like,
Yes.
you're doing this, we see it. So your options are A, leave the group, or B, own up to it, right? Say what you did, apologize, and show the path to rectification.
Do
Um,
better. Yeah.
and we got close, but then the circle of the wagons happened, and the other people in the group refused to hold him accountable. And
Mm.
so I ended up leaving the group, but with a very like blunt conversation, just especially to the men in the group.
Yeah.
Um, I basically pulled him aside and was some harsh, but I basically said, "You are cowards. Men like you are the reason that men like him continue to get away with this. And I hope you realize what you're doing, that you need to do better." And then I left the group. It
Mm.
was really sad for me because that was that was like my primary friend group when I moved to LA.
Yeah.
It's like losing an entire social circle. But
It,
if you genuinely want to be a part of like making the world and your dance scene a safer space, these are values that you have to be living across your entire life. So whether
yeah.
that's in dance or not in dance, that people just kind of start to see you as like someone who like takes this stuff seriously beyond just talk.
Yeah.
Like you see it, you will say something about it. Um, Obviously, like as an organizer, as a person calling it out, I'm so much less affected by it than the
Yeah.
people that this person was targeting. Right? I definitely want to make
Yes.
it like their experience was so much worse. But I do recognize for organizers, it's hard to hold people accountable. Like it's hard to have those conversations. It's hard to be known as the person who will like rock the boat. Um,
Yeah.
I was listening to your podcast with, I think it was Cameron, who was saying that he tried to call out someone high profile, and then they like told him like you're never going to work again. And like
Yes.
that's real. That is real. Like I've been threatened. I've been physically assaulted.
Yeah.
I've had to file a police report against another person who punched and kicked me because I tried to hold them accountable for something. Like
Whoa.
it's it's not yeah, it's not it's not easy to do the accountability work,
It's
but
no.
uh, I think it's important um, to try to live it throughout your whole life. How do you keep dancers safe? You be a safe person in all aspects of your life such that people see it and can talk with you about it. And that can even go up to like your family.
Mm.
Like,
Yes.
can you have conversations with your family members about unsafe activities that they're a part of? Like,
Those
and
are
if you're
big
not, well,
questions to ask
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. And if you're not willing to do that, then why should someone trust you in the dance scene? You can't even talk to your mom
Yeah.
about some activity that she's doing that's inappropriate. How can they trust you to talk to some random person?
Yeah.
So,
I agree completely. You should live outside of your dance scene as you are in your wider life. Because nothing that happens in the dance scene isn't happening in wider life.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Uh-huh.
experience that in your board game circles.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the societal structure in which we live.
Yeah.
The dance scene just magnifies it.
Yeah, I think that's a critically important point. Like there's nothing in the dance scene that's happening that's not happening everywhere else.
Yeah,
Um, and it's more personal to us as dancers who for for whom this is a major hobby for
yeah,
us. But yeah, the for me the board game thing last year was a really eye-opening or
eye-opening.
sobering thing
Yeah,
because for all the things that the dance scene has done wrong, at least these conversations are happening, right?
yeah.
For the people in that board game crew, this was the first time for most of them that they'd ever been exposed to like a safer spaces type
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah, so it may
Um,
take them a couple more of those interventions before they're
yeah,
ready and willing to engage and grow.
right. Yeah. So at least we're having these conversations in the dance scene, which
Yeah,
is
at
good.
least we're having them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these conversations are well and good. How can we ensure that we have a genuine impact on the dance scene going forwards?
Yeah, that's I think the
It's a big
most
question.
yeah, I think the most important thing is just building connections and community with people who are trying. I never want to make this work seem more emotionally difficult than the work that like survivors have to go through. But like it is emotionally difficult to be a safer spaces person.
Mm,
And I've seen over the many, many years I've been involved in this, people burn out constantly. Um, and
yeah,
it's only so many times you can hear these stories and see nothing get done that you just like forget it. I'm done.
yeah,
So I've seen that happen a
yeah.
lot. And
And to those people who have burnt out, thank you, because
yeah,
you gave a lot and you had to step away for your own well-being, but it was
yeah,
one step further for the next wave of us
right,
coming in.
right. So I think kind of the one major thing is to not try to do everything by yourself. And again,
Hmm.
coming back to that's like an organization, why SDS is so important. Like
Yeah.
find people who can, you
Help
can
you.
who can help you, who can lean on, just
Yeah.
who you can just have a vent conversation to. Like
So
those
healthy.
are so helpful. Just like sometimes you just need to call a friend and vent and scream and cry and just get it out and not hold it in. Um, so I think just having that circle that you can go to is really important. And the more people who join that blob,
Yeah.
I think the stronger the movement gets in the long run. Because I feel like for every movement, there's a tipping point. And I don't know if this is our scene's tipping point, but at some point, some person, some story, some organizer will be the thing that like tips it over the edge. And we'll only get to that moment the bigger the circle of people is. Um, so honestly, like just having these conversations more and more with different people, I think is a great thing that anybody can do. Um,
Mm.
I think versing yourself in how to have these conversations is really important because then you can start having these conversations not just in dance, but in other aspects of your life as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that doesn't happen overnight. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to talk about this now and it's going to be great
no,
and I'm going to feel comfortable. Oof, no, it takes
no,
time
it
and
takes,
practice. And
yeah,
it's okay to take that time and to engage in that practice. We don't get it
yeah,
right on day one.
yeah. So I think just kind of every single person can kind of educate themselves, build connections, but it's also like voting with your feet and your money.
Mm.
Um, like if someone out there is looking at the conversations that are happening, in April 2025, and you go attend one of the festivals,
Yeah.
right? That's under question, you're part of the problem, right? Like even if you bought your tickets, right? You were looking forward to it, your friends are going, like you have to be willing to say, I'm putting safety first and I'm willing to vote with my feet and I'm willing to tell my friends, hey, this came up. I no longer trust this festival's safer spaces. I think they're dangerous practices. I
Mm.
am not going to support them any longer. It can be hard, especially like if it's been, a festival you've gone to before. Like In the
Yeah.
past, you've supported organizers. They may even be like people you looked up to for a long time. And it sucks. It sucks
Oh my
to
God,
have
it
to
does.
then back out and then say, you know what? That person fell
No.
short. I can no longer support them. And I
Yeah.
think I've seen too many people unwilling to take that step. And I've actually had to get to the point where, like, because I unfortunately know a lot of the stories over the years, people will
Mm.
come up to me and say, hey, I'm going to this festival, and then kind of look at me. And it's like, if you stay here for the next 10 seconds, you're not going to be able to go to that festival because I'm going to tell you, right? And then
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to go. And I've had people walk away. They're like, yeah, I don't
Hmm.
want to know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've definitely noticed an unwillingness to have to vote with your feet.
Yeah, and it is hard
It's
to say no
incredibly
to
hard.
us. Yeah.
In a previous scene I was in, the social in the city was run by someone who I knew to be a predator and who I
Mm.
had credible reports that they were a predator. But the person who shared that with me didn't want to do anything about it for completely understandable reasons.
Yeah.
Like they didn't want their story to be shared. They told me because they felt that I would listen and I would hear them out. But then what it meant was like I couldn't go to that person's social anymore, and I couldn't tell my friends why I wasn't going beyond
Yeah.
that. Like I feel this person is unsafe, and
Yes.
on a purely like personal, it sucked. Like that was my favorite social,
Yeah.
and my friends would still go there, and then I'd have to be like, nope, can't go,
Mm-mm. I
and
refuse. Not
I
going.
refused. Yeah, and
And it's hard.
yeah, and I think if more people start doing that, more people will notice. Because
Yes.
even now, like in my current scene, I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, Jason, why do I never see you at X person social?" My response is, "You know me. Why wouldn't I go there?"
Yeah.
And yeah, you got to get to a point where, especially if you're an organizer, DJ, teacher, your presence is validation, right? So if you're going to an event, you're tacitly saying it's okay for me to be here, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay for you to be here too.
Yes.
So if you know something as a teacher, you need to not go teach for that person, right? You need to not go DJ for that person. You need to
Yeah.
not attend their things as a social dancer.
Yeah.
And
Check your values and live by them.
yeah, and recognize like it's hard. It sucks. Like it's hard.
Yeah.
Man, like yeah. But like if we're gonna fix these things, it starts with the people who care, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Living that live your values even when it hurts. And I recognize that it hurts
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
At the
People who
cost of
care,
not.
right? Exactly. If we're not willing to do it, and we're the ones having these conversations, how can we possibly expect your
Yeah.
average person who only hears about these things on the side to do it? So,
Yeah. Yeah. The cost of not following those values is enabling, validating bad behavior.
mhm. Yeah.
Not on.
No. Live your values, vote with your feet. That's how we fix this.
It's the way to go. And it's, I mean, we can probably say there's 50,000 moving parts, but you know what? Those are two tangible parts that we can, all of us, actively engage in,
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Jason Patel, thank you for talking to us today about safer spaces within dancing. There's so much in your words for us to digest. I couldn't possibly recap all of the value you've given to us today. So listen again and challenge yourself, grow, be both a safer person in the dance scene and beyond in your everyday life. We all have the space to grow, so let's grow together.
Yes.